All right, everyone, welcome back to What's Your Next podcast. And today we're going to be diving into another section of the franchise disclosure document. We're getting towards the end. There's 23 sections. We've been through 15. Go back and watch our previous episodes if you haven't seen those. Again, some of these are progressive, so you will have gotten some precursor information that sometimes shows up later in later sections of the FDD. Item 16 is really an extension, a little bit of item 15, in that it spells out the limitations that you have as a franchisee as far as what you can offer products and services wise based on being a franchisee of a particular franchise.
Welcome to What's Your Next. This is the go-to podcast for aspiring business owners who want to get to the next level, escape the rat race, and give their middle finger to the corporate 9-to-5. If you want financial freedom, work-life balance, and the business of your dreams, you're in the right place. Dave and Stacy Riska, husband-wife franchising duo, openly share their successes, failures, and lessons learned in franchising, business ownership, and working with your spouse.
And there's really three different scenarios that are in this particular item. And the first one is, are you able to sell items that are not authorized by the franchisor? So Stacy, do you want to expand on this? I'm sure we have examples that we can give even in our own business, relating to this particular one.
Right. So this sub-item is answering the question of whether the franchisee may sell only the goods or services approved by the franchisor. So think of this as yourself being in a pizza franchise and you're selling all kinds of pizza, but the franchisor doesn't have gluten-free or thin crust, but you want to offer those two. It's pizza, right? Can you just add gluten-free and thin crust to the menu? What do you think, Dave?
I would say you'd have to get approval for it, probably. And no, you can't just go out and decide to do that, probably. This is spelled out in this particular item, usually in every franchise disclosure document. So be aware what these restrictions are as far as, I should say restrictions and limitations of what your product and service offerings can be based on your relationship to a particular franchise.
Yeah, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit more. I mean, hopefully the pizza example made sense, but sometimes candidates will come to us and they'll be like, oh, well, this franchise only does this type of business or only has one or two revenue streams, and I want to add on these because they tie in well. And to you, it may make sense, but remember that a franchise is a proven system, and they are likely only offering those specific sets of goods, products, or services because they know that it works. And if you have too many things, it's easy to get just pulled in all these different directions, and then you're nothing to nobody. So understand that the franchise in most systems has a very limited set of products and services for a reason. If you think you have a good reason and can validate the case why something should be added, just make sure you understand where and how you can get approval to do that.
Absolutely. That's the point here, is that if you're going to go outside the system, you probably should at least get approval before you do. And as Stacy said, the whole point is you're buying a proven system, and there's lots of sayings about, too many irons and too many fires, and you would have a difficult time staying focused if you go too far out of the boundaries of the system that you purchased anyway. So, and what we find is that, in business, that sometimes people, they want to expand and grow their revenues, but they don't realize that necessarily that doesn't translate to the bottom line anyway, meaning that it just is a distraction from what your core business is. And if you just focus on your core business, you'd probably be better off, right? Mm-hmm. All right, so let's talk about the second part of this, and that is relating to the restrictions of a franchisor requiring you to offer all of their products without limitations, meaning that you're required to offer them on your menu of services or products, regardless whether you want to or not. So Stacy, do you want to expand on that one a little bit?
Yeah, so there's two sides to it, but that's the key word: all goods, products, and services. So whether you want to or not, it in this item, it's delineating that you have to agree to sell all of it, right? And sometimes this can become an issue for organizations that are open 7 days a week. Some people may have a bias towards being open on a Sunday or being open in the evening, certain hours, right? Or I'm gluten-free, so I can't offer things that have gluten in them. You know, whatever your reason is, it doesn't matter. If the franchise says you have to offer all of it, you must offer all of it. On the other side of it, there are many franchises that kind of have a mandate of this core set of goods, products, and services, and then have some options, items that are optional. And this is good in a situation where it may be local or regional. I think about, in our coffee smoothie business, they gave us a lot of freedom and flexibility in this regard because they may have mandated that coffees and smoothies are mandatory, but we could pick the flavors, right? Or we could come up with a name for it that had a Hawaiian theme to it. So there were some things that were optional. Even in our coffee smoothie business, catering, for example, as a business model, it wasn't mandated. It was an optional thing that you could decide to invest in and snap that onto your business.
Right.
Make sense?
And that's a service, right? You can have products, you can have services, and you can have both. And these are the item. This is the item that lays out the flexibility that you have of offering additional or having to offer all of the products and services of a particular franchisor. So winding it up, number three deals with in the franchise agreement, does the franchisor have the right to expand the product offering in any way? And this came into play in our own franchise for certain. So Stacy, do you want to expand on this one a little bit?
Yeah. So, for example, we have been in this franchise now for 17 years, but the products and services and even the business model have evolved over time. When we first came into the franchise, they did not have a brick and mortar. We were one of the first to have a brick and mortar. They didn't have a food truck. We were one of the first to have a food truck. And they expanded the menu to include Hawaiian shave ice. That was a product that customers were clamoring for, but we couldn't offer it because it wasn't an approved item. So those are just a few examples how over time, especially in an emerging franchise, that those products and services will likely morph a lot.
Right, and the agreement spells out whether they can morph, meaning that is the franchisor even capable of adding products or services. So if you're looking for one that is going to be a little bit more lenient as far as adding products, then certainly this is going to have to be there. This clause would have to be there for them to be able to add that to their list of products or services. So that's really all we have for this particular item 16 of the FDD. We're going to keep marching forward. If you like our content, again, like, subscribe, thumbs up is always good. We appreciate it, and we'll catch you on the next episode of What's Your Next.